Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Old Man Strength. I am your host, Chris Shipley, brought to you by my new guest co-host tonight. We are unfortunately not able to have Aaron on tonight. He's got some stuff going on. Amy from Hot Miss Happy Hour, Flame and Shame, our marketing genius here at Three Beards Media. We're broadcasting tonight from the Andrew Downs AKC Marketing Studios. And of course, sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company, Greenberry Realty, and Kyle Lehman at OneTrust Mortgage. That's a lot. It's a lot to get out. So, Amy, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm drinking some Revelton. In our new branded cups that we have here.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm drinking my sorrows away because I spent a lot of money this weekend because we're renovating the kitchen, so we had to buy a new kitchen table and things like that. So I may have to find a third job.
Yeah, that's how that works. That's exactly how that works.
And typically, the way my relationship goes with my wife is we discuss plans for what we want to do, and then usually I go, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and give in and let you do what you want because anything we're doing is better than what we have now, and I know that you'll be more picky about it. And if you don't absolutely love it, then you'll continue to talk about it in the future. And so I'll just let you pick.
Honestly, that's how it should be.
Right. It's not that I don't have an opinion. It's that I don't have a really strong opinion.
Well,
so
most of your opinions are true. So I feel like you have a lot of trash takes. So I feel like Stacy is probably better suited for making decisions. I mean, you don't like Target.
That's hurtful. Well, there's a whole reason why I don't like Target. It's boring.
Well,
at least when I go to Walmart, I can see some exciting things.
Traumatizing. I think you're confusing traumatizing with exciting.
I think I am. At least when I leave Walmart, I always have a story.
Yeah.
I go to Target. I'm like, I don't have anything super great to talk about. It was Target. So
just your sanity.
Just my sanity. That's
you
right.
Target with your sanity.
Who needs that? I don't need any sanity for the next 4 years. God knows I don't need that. So.
Yeah. We have to do all we can to take care of ourselves.
That's exactly right. We're 4 days into this whole thing, and I'm already exhausted. So
yeah.
That's a whole nother story. Somebody commented today on last week's episode about, I thought this podcast was about whiskey. Well, you apparently haven't been listening for the last 4 years, so I don't know what to tell you, my friend.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So we're going to do something different tonight. It's funny because years ago when we first started this podcast, Tim and I actually had a episode called Old Man Dating where we brought on Caitlin's friend and rated her Tinder dates and her Tinder messages and things like that. And I was told that I was completely out of touch, that I didn't know what I was talking about. So
yeah,
When the idea, so when the option came up tonight to have our guest on tonight, and I was kind of excited to do something different, I thought I should probably bring somebody on here that is way better at this than me, because I have not dated in, I don't know, how long have I been married? 12 years. So
That's something you should know.
I know. Well, I know. I've also been married a long time, so I'm also on my second marriage. So I'm not so sure I'm such a great expert at this. So, so I thought maybe we would bring you on so we could actually have intelligent conversations and me not just stumbling around like I am right now.
Okay.
So
I don't know that I know a whole lot about dating now, because I've been in a relationship for a fair amount of time, but I do have a lot of friends who are
right. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. So I did know that. Yes. So
yeah.
So anyways, one of our friends and listeners, Nikki, reached out and said, "Hey, would you be interested in having my friend on?" She runs Date Me Des Moines, which is a dating service, and they do in-person dating activities and outings and things like that. And I had actually, as I was explaining to our guest earlier before we started the show, I'm not sure how I stumbled upon the algorithm where she showed up on my timeline. Probably because it was Des Moines Central and I follow a lot of Des Moines accounts and things like that. That's what I'm going with anyways. So I knew who this was when she told me about it. So we're super excited to welcome Leah Wafful on from Date Me Des Moines. Leah, thanks for joining Old Man Strength tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so as I said, I kind of stumbled upon your TikTok and so on, and we'll kind of get into what Date Me Des Moines is. But why don't you give everybody, I give you a brief introduction. Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody more about who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm Leah Wafful. I'm a serial entrepreneur kind of here in Des Moines. I own a few other businesses. Funny, we were kind of talking about waffles. I own a waffle food truck as well called Waffles and Whip. I also own Bronze 515, which is a custom airbrush tanning business I started about 8.5 years ago. That was kind of my leap into being an entrepreneur while I worked in the corporate world as a 27-year-old, just trying to figure life out. And so kind of life happened. I've been this entrepreneur. And then this past summer in June, I launched Date Me DSM, which is an in-person dating events for people that are just kind of looking to get offline and to date in person. And clearly there's a need for it because my tickets sell out in minutes. And I'm from Fort Dodge originally, so we can joke about that as much as you want. And
I don't know that it's only an hour show, so.
I know, right? I've lived here 11 years. I have been married for 2.5. I've been with my husband almost 11 years. So when it comes to dating, I mean, I did online dating, but it was back when a website existed called Plenty of Fish. And that's where
that's where I met my wife, Stacey.
Yeah. So. And so, I mean, I definitely know dating. At Bronze, on an average week, I'll spray tan, anywhere between 60 to 100 people. So it's you hear stories all the time. Sure. So, that's kind of just a little bit about me. I went to a Catholic school my whole life. We can also make fun of that. Went to UNI, went to grad school, lots of debt, and then moved here to Des Moines and worked in the corporate world for a couple of years and kind of built these businesses up that I just saw Des Moines needed. And that's kind of what Date Me DSM was, right? You see these dating events happening in Chicago and New York and all these other really cool places, DC. And it's why can't we can have that, right? Just because we're a smaller city doesn't mean that we can't still have the cool things that these big cities have. So it's kind of what I'm doing. So, yeah.
Okay. So I'll start here because it seems to be a trend with the people that we have on this show. I'm fascinated with the fact that, because Aaron and I started Three Beards Media and brought Amy on 2 years ago. And, I'm 54 years old. Amy's much younger, and Aaron is younger, but you were working in the corporate world. What were you doing in the corporate world, and then what made you? I always find it fascinating that people just okay, you know what? I'm just going to try something completely different and new, and I, at that age probably would have been scared to death to do that. So I always find it fascinating when people do that. Tell me what you were doing before and what made you make that jump.
So when I first moved to Des Moines, I worked for Mercy College as like an academic advisor. So just kind of advising college students. I was also like freshly out of college as well. So I'm 35. So I was, 23, 24 when I took this job here in Des Moines, working at Mercy, hated it. I was like, this is no way to live. And in grad school, in the back of my mind, I always knew I wasn't going to do this. I just wanted to go to grad school. Like I wasn't done in like being in college. I did 2 years at Iowa Central, and then I did 2 years of undergrad at UNI, and I was like, nah, I'm not done. And why not waste another 20 grand? So that's what I did. And I had a friend that worked in corporate for a company that manages and develops senior living communities across the US. And they needed like an executive assistant, but they also were going to pay me like $18,000 more a year, which is significant.
Sure. That's a lot.
For a 25-year-old. Like, I mean, for anybody, that's significant. So I was like, I'll clean the toilets. I'll get your coffee, whatever you need. I'm there. So I was an executive assistant to just kind of like higher ups at a company with like 20 guys in my department. I was the only girl. So it was kind of like their sister, and I was bored. So I'm very creative. I'm always going. I definitely have undiagnosed like ADHD, like adult ADHD, ADD. So I'm just constantly thinking, and I never envisioned myself being an entrepreneur. I always thought I was just going to live that life of living paycheck to paycheck, which is kind of just what I was used to, like that's just kind of how I grew up and how I was living. And I borrowed $100, not 100, I borrowed $500 from my mom and sister to like buy the spray tanning equipment that I had. And I had $100 in my bank account at the time that I kind of like launched this business, and Bronze 515. And I worked 8 to 5 every day. And then at 5:30, I went and I worked from 5:30 to 10 almost every night, even on the weekends, Sundays too, and just built this business up. And then eventually left my corporate job after 2 years of doing this part-time. And the guys that I worked with were kind of like a huge motivation for me. Like they were like, why are you still here? Like they looked at my numbers of what I was bringing in doing this part-time, and they're like, what are you doing here? So I was like, okay, time to leave. And so that's kind of like what I was doing. And people are always like, would you ever go back? And there are days that I miss like somebody telling me what to do. Then I remember that I don't really like that. So no, I don't think I'll ever go back to corporate. So yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. So nothing too fancy. Definitely am not using my college degree though, for sure.
Raise your hand if you are. I mean, I graduated with a political science degree. I worked in IT for 20 years, and now I work in marketing. So, I mean, and I do podcasts on the side. So what does that tell you?
Right. Exactly.
No education is wasted, though.
Correct. I learned a lot about myself. Like if somebody were like, do this math problem, no clue, but I could tell you something else that you needed to know. I was always a good presenter, always a good talker, theater kind of was in my background. So, I always knew maybe deep down I'd do something different. And, here we are. I'm spray tanning naked women for a living. I'm serving people waffles, and I'm helping people find love. So all of the above.
That sounds like a dream life. Like, right. I mean, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Spray tanning 100 women sounds really intriguing right now.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I was
thinking waffles.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the waffle thing is cool. Not sure how much longer I'll have that because it's a lot of work. So just kind of evaluating that this year. So probably will be my last year with that. But we'll see.
Have you ever had a weirdo come up and order Cheese Whiz on your waffles? I'm just asking.
No, who does that?
Yeah, who does that? Yeah, Rob, who does that?
However, I mean, my waffles are called the Liège waffle. So they're a dough-based waffle, and we put them on a stick. So they're very different than like what we grew up on. Like these are very, European almost. And so you can find them kind of anywhere over there. And so I brought them, here. So they're dough, and they go on like a 100-pound waffle iron that sits inside my little horse trailer. I converted into a food trailer, and I just do private events. So a lot of people will be like, where can we find you? I'm like, you can't. I'm just at graduations and weddings. Every once in a while, I'll do a pop-up outside my like Bronze studio that's in Urbandale here off 100th Street. But otherwise, it's just kind of like just for a little extra fun money. But if you've ever worked in food or know anything about that life, like there's nothing small about it. Like it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So
you said that you have undiagnosed ADHD, which I feel like I have the same thing. Like I can literally count right now with my regular job that I have, and then with this, and then I have some charitable stuff that I do on the side, and then stuff that I do at church.
we're just busy.
And I just
busy
add,
people.
it's like I feel like if I don't have something occupying my time or occupying my mind, I feel like I'm missing something or whatever else. Tell me about that. Why do you feel the need to fill so much of your time with stuff like that?
I think this is my issue. When I'm bored, I eat. So that's an issue for me, right? So I think I just constantly want to be busy. And I don't know if it's like, for some reason, it could be like wanting gratification, you know what I mean, from like other people knowing that I'm doing really good things, or in the back of my mind, I just want to do good things. I kind of always like tell people like it's almost an addiction in a way to be like on the go, be creative, stand out. I kind of like tell people about like online dating. Like online dating for a lot of people is an addiction. It's euphoric for people when they get a like online. It's kind of like when an Instagram reel does really well for me. Like I'm like, I've made it. You know what I mean? Like it's happening, So I think for me, it's just kind of like that. I just like to be busy. And the thing about me is like, I don't want children. I've never wanted children. So I don't have children. I have a dog and I have another child at home called my husband. Bless him. But
that seems unfair.
He doesn't have social media. He'll never see that.
He's fine.
Unless I show it to him. And so I don't know, I think it's just that I just don't like to be bored. I think it's just in me. Like I've always had multiple jobs. I've always just been here, there, everywhere. I can't sit still. I can't read a book. I can't listen to an audiobook either. So, and there's a handful of podcasts I listen to, but other than that, I seem to always be working. Like I added up today and yesterday how much I worked, and it was like close to 20 hours. And I'm like, and it's the weekend. So I'll figure it out one of these days, or I'll just crash and burn. So,
So as someone who was diagnosed with ADHD, 3 years ago,
yeah.
It was the boredom thing. And when I was doing online dating, Tinder was the only thing I did after my divorce. I was like, okay, I need something. And the immediate unmatch, or I'm not a ghost or whatever, I'm not talking to you again, was if someone said, I'm bored. I'm like, no, get out of here with that. I'm not I'm not your entertainment host. Right. Like, no, if you're bored, do something about it. Change that. So I don't understand the being bored thing, because I'm always doing something. So like when I was still dating and stuff, that was the immediate turnoff for me, was I'm bored.
I don't do well with like people that like are bored, I guess. As well. Like I'm like, okay, I'm just always on the go. I don't do well with people who complain either. So that's just kind of that's like, I have employees that work for me, and I'm I'm from Fort Dodge, we're dirty, we get it done, so I grew up in a lower middle class family with a single mom, and that's just kind of how I was raised, to just work, I guess, which isn't always great. I always think, what if I did go on Adderall? Like, what if I took some of my husband's pills? Just, see. And I'm like, I don't know how I would do being so level. Like, it's kind of almost like scary for me to think about that. Like, I could be calm. I could not have 9,000 going on in my head.
Do you think, because I feel this way sometimes, do you think that if you were to relax a little bit, that you would lose ground and not continue to have the success that you have, whatever success is in your mind? You know what I mean?
Yep. I do. I mean, and that's the reason why I think I function very well in somewhat stressful environments too. I think I'm just
Under
always
pressure.
like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my other businesses always. Like, I'm not ever just thinking about one thing. And it's just how I've been. And I think as I've opened businesses, I've learned more about, when I was growing up, nobody took medication. Nobody knew what that was. Like, we didn't, and in a Catholic school, we don't have IEPs in Catholic schools or anything like that. So, I
Right.
mean, I struggled to take tests. And I just always thought I was in my mind, I always was like, you're a slow test taker, or you're so quick and you fail a lot of tests because you're dumb, which wasn't the case. It was probably just,
Right.
I was undiagnosed with something.
Right.
And, but when you go to not a public school, they don't have the resources. So, but now I'm like, I don't know how I'd do. I feel like it's almost scary to think that I could slow down. And I'm kind of in a groove right now. Like, Date Me DSM is just popping off, and I'm just going to keep going until it can't go anymore. And that's kind of what Bronze did for me. So Bronze is kind of like, we're 9 years into the business. Unless I start opening up multiple locations or producing my own products, I feel like I'm kind of where I want to be with it.
Right.
And now I'm starting to slowly step back after 9 years. I mean, I'm here almost every day, still spray tanning. And a lot of people that own salons or do what I do, they don't do this every day anymore. So I think Date Me DSM is one of those businesses I've realized that, like, I could run it from afar too. Like, with my other businesses, I have to physically be present for the most part. I have a brick and mortar, and Date Me DSM is also an in-person dating event, but then I'm also dabbling in matchmaking as well for people here,
Sure.
which I'm launching that. I kind of have launched it a little bit with just people I kind of know, just kind of that are guinea pigs that are single. But that's something, you can also do from my cottage that I'll own someday in Vermont, So that's the dream, is to take your laptop and just work from afar. I envy people who have remote jobs that can, like, go to Florida and they're like, I'm working. Are you though? Are you really working?
Oh, I can't work remote anymore. I can't.
Right,
do it. I
yeah,
gotta have
I
a place
mean,
to go. I gotta.
Love
That's,
it.
gotta
and
go
I
to
think
work.
that's part of my. I think that's part of my ADHD. If I'm home, I'm wandering around. I'm not. If I'm in my office, I know I'm working. And now that doesn't mean I won't get up and go talk to somebody every 5 minutes or whatever else.
Yeah.
But I gotta have a place to be and have a place to go and whatever else. Amy's the exact opposite. As a matter of fact, I left a job that drove me crazy because I couldn't go anywhere and whatever else, and she took that job because it was perfect for her because she didn't have to go anywhere. It's just kind of funny that it worked out that way.
I didn't have to go anywhere. I like being able to move to different things. So, like,
Yes.
same as having 3 businesses or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
Moving between the different things to keep myself stimulated. So working from here or home or my friend's house or a coffee shop or this coffee shop or
It's so
to
foreign to me to do that. I just can't even imagine.
going to LA. We went to LA for Iowa football
Mhm.
game.
How'd that work out?
You be quiet. You're wearing
Well,
a
are you an
Bears
Iowa
sweater.
State fan? I don't know anything about
Yes,
who you are.
yes,
Okay.
I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah,
I was hoping
he's
you weren't
wearing
going to be like
Bears
a
hoodie, talking
Michigan
crap.
State or something.
No, you can't. You can't wear a Bears hoodie and and go there. No,
That's fair. That's fair.
That's funny.
yeah, we went to LA and I worked from the hotel breakfast area.
That's the
It was
dream.
great. It was great. I loved it. Yeah, it was fantastic.
I lost the question I was going to ask. So go ahead.
Well-
The Bears comment ruined me. Oh, with Amy though, like there are times it is funny because there are times where I will message Amy and I'll be like, hey, can you make this graphic or whatever else? And she's like, yeah, give me a second. Give me 20 minutes. I'm heading to Starbucks now and I'll do it on my iPad. And I'm like, I'm so blown away. I'm like, there's no way I could just work on an iPad. I'm literally recording this podcast. I've got 3 screens up. I've got 4 screens at my work. Like, how are you working off a tiny little iPad? I would go nuts. That's just not possible for me.
I'm recording this on my iPad with my AirPods.
So I can't do it. I can't do it. And I remember the job I had a few years ago. I was working in marketing, and I was clearly the old man in the department because everybody else in my department was like mid-20s, smart. I mean, they were great people, but like I'm sitting at my cube working, and they're all hanging out in the common area in the office, like sitting on the couches with their laptops, drinking their coffee. And they're like, Chris, why don't you come over and sit over here and you can work with us? And I'm like, my body's not built like that. Like I can't go sit on the couch and work on a laptop, this 52-year-old body that I can't even cross my legs at. Like I'll sit over here in my old man cube and just get my work done. Like the dude looking for his stapler in Office Space. Like that was me. Like, so I didn't last very long at that job because I just couldn't do it. So listen, I want to get a break. We're going to get a word from our sponsors, Revelton Distilling Company and Greenberry Realty. And then when we come back, I want to dive into Date Me Des Moines. Let's learn what prompted you to do that. I want to hear some stories about some successes, some crazy stuff. I actually mentioned to a girl that I work with that I was having you on, and she's like, oh, I know her. I would love to go to her events, but, and I'll tease you with that. So when we come back, we'll get a word from Revelton Distilling Company and Greenberry Realty, and then we'll be back with Leah Wafful.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. When energy meets precision, anything is possible.
I'm Carter Hawley, the Chief Energy Officer of the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm full of energy on and off the court, but nothing gives me more energy than helping families find their dream home. And that's where Green Beret Realty comes in. They're more than just realtors. They're a team dedicated to getting things right for you and your family, just like we get it right on the court.
No basket. That was on the floor before the shot. Out of bounds.
Come on! Can you believe that? You can't take that away from me.
That call was absolutely terrible. Are you guys cautiously trying to be this bad? I mean, does your mom not love you?
Have you seen how old my partner is? My back hurts already from carrying him all night. And I've heard enough out of you.
So you're gone.
Fine.
Jim, are you blind? Basket's good. We've got a three-pointer. Sometimes it takes a team to get the call right. And when you're buying a home, you want a team that makes all the right calls. That is Green Beret Realty. And here's the best part. When you buy or sell a home through Dan at Green Beret Realty and mention this ad, he'll make a donation to the We Will Collective, helping student athletes like me thrive on and off the court.
That call's so easy, even we can make it.
Green Beret Realty, because getting the call right means everything.
All right, and we are back with Leah Wafful from Date Me Des Moines, again in the AKC Andrew Downs Studios. So Leah, you're trucking along with Bronze, which you've got the logo behind you. I can't help but notice that you've specifically placed yourself so it looks like you have a halo over your head.
It does.
We've been on for 28 minutes. It's distracted me the entire time. So you're married. So at what point do you go, I think I'm going to get into helping people meet other people and date?
Gosh, I think it was probably like one of the girls that works for me and just seeing struggles that she had gone through with online dating and my own struggles. And I was like, it was bad 10 years ago. Like, I'm sure it's still bad. It's probably even worse.
Because it's the men, right? The men are shitheads, right?
Well, I mean, not necessarily.
That's right, because I'll defend that too. So,
I won't say all men are bad. I mean, I seem to have found an okay one, and I married him. So So
there you go.
So it was kind of that. It was like friends, family. I saw articles about how in-person dating events were really trending. And I saw a couple people that did these in New York and other places, and they were just like selling out. And I was like, nobody's doing this here. And if they're doing it, they're not doing it well. And the thing that makes me a little bit different is that I've lived here 11 years, right? I own businesses. I have a really deep connection to the women of Des Moines already. I think that I'm safe. People know me. I'm reputable. I'm not a scammer. Like, this isn't a scam. Right. I think I'm entertaining. I'm organized. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do one event. It's probably going to be a flop, but knowing me, we'll see. I'm going to just market the shit out of it. And that's what I did. And so that was our first event I hosted this past summer in June at the New Northwestern. And it was really just kind of like a mixer. There wasn't, it wasn't like a whole lot of structure quite yet. I wanted to just get a feel, and it sold out. And it was, I think our first event I did was like 28 to 40. And, with my dating events, I don't go younger than 25 because like nobody's brain's even formed by then. It's like I don't do younger than 25. And this is why I don't do it, is because I think you have to experience dating. Like, I think it's, statistically people aren't getting married at 20 anymore for the most part. Like, I think the average woman is getting married now at 30 or 28 or something like that. And the average man is 30. So it's very different than what it was, when our grandparents got married. They all got married pretty young and had kids young, and it's just times are changing. And so I do usually like 25 to 45, and they've gone well. If you follow me on Instagram or anywhere, Facebook, TikTok, RIP, I deleted the app, so it's not coming back for me.
Trump saved us, Leah. Don't you know that?
And so, so I kind of just was like, I'm going to host these events, and we'll see how they go. And they've gone really well, and the women's tickets sell out in minutes. And my women's tickets have sold out. I mean, I'm just kind of, I just checked when we were doing the commercial, and they're gone, and they went live at 8, and there was 100 tickets that were an option for women. And I'm doing an event, my first event here coming up in February. One of them is going to be for a little older. It's been really, really, really hard to get guys that are 45, 50 to buy tickets to my events. So we're going to try it again. I tried it a couple months ago. Didn't work. So I think I've gotten a little bit more popular. A lot more people have come to our event. So hopefully that.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that the older men have been more reluctant?
Well, I kind of base a lot of feedback I get from my uncle, who is single and 63, and he tries to date. Like, he does date, and he lives up in Minneapolis. So lots of people up in Minneapolis, you know what I mean? Like, a large city, and he still struggles up there. I think a lot of people just get set in their ways. I think a lot of people that are a little older too have kids, and they're just so involved in their kids' lives, and they just forget about themselves almost too. And I think that becomes like secondary to them, like their kids or their careers come first. A lot of people that are in that 45 to 55, they're probably either divorced or I have a lot of people who have messaged me who are widowed that want to come to my events. I think that is more common than not. I mean, I've even had people in their late 30s come to my events that are widow. And so I think people I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of people have anxiety about dating post-COVID. People are like just stuck in their houses. I think a lot of guys are just scared of rejection. Years ago, I don't think guys were scared of rejection. I think it's just they're a little more scared, where women are like, screw it, I'm going out, like whatever. I always say like a rejection a day is a slay. Like the more you get rejected, the closer you are to finding your person, right? It takes a lot. You're not going to find Prince Charming on your first date. It could take a lot of dates. It took me, I met over 50 people before I met my husband, which for some people may or may not be a lot, but for me at 25, that was a lot. So, I think that's kind of the issue with men, is that, and not even just older men, it's just men in general. I struggle with all age ranges. It just seems a little bit harder with like the 50 plus. It's also because I don't think as many of them are online as, the younger kids. And I really don't promote myself anywhere else. I'm not going to spend, $1,000 on an ad when I'm only doing one or two events a month. Like, this is very part-time for me. If I had a bigger budget and things like that, I would 100% do that. But I think social media is my number one source of finding people. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, doing ads on any of those. And I've had a decent amount of reels do pretty well for me that have gotten me a decent amount of followers. And, my events typically range from 25 men, 25 women when I do speed dating. And then my mixers generally, I mean, last night was our biggest one, which was 85 people. So I think, that was a big mixer that we did, and I like those, but I also like speed dating more from a business standpoint. But speed dating seems to statistically be better for me because it allows people to come to the event and you get to talk to every single person there. And you might get to talk to somebody who you would have never have talked to or never swiped on the apps. Like, you're forced to essentially talk to them. Mixers is kind of just like a bar with a lot of people that are single in them. Last night we did 5 rounds of speed dating. So about an hour's worth of speed dating to like loosen people up. And then the rest of the night, you kind of were on your own. And I helped navigate the room a little bit and breaking people up if they were kind of like, you saw a group of guys, 5 talking to each other. It's like, that's not the point. You're not supposed to be talking to each other. So I think from speed dating works better, but when I do mixers, I can get more people in a room and get more women off the wait list. So that's kind of why I like those.
Amy, do you want to ask a question? Because I have several.
Go ahead.
So I think just obviously I'm married. But as an older man, I would tell you that mixers for me would scare me to death because it would be no different than being in a bar or whatever else. Yeah. I would think that the speed dating would work better simply because then I can sit and talk to somebody or whatever else. I would be more apprehensive to just go up and start talking to somebody in a mixer setting because it's no different than meeting in a bar or whatever else. So that's number one. Here's my perspective from the outside looking in, because obviously I've not been in the dating world. I have no idea. Now I do know I have several friends that have told me that there's some pretty shitty guys that do some pretty shitty things. And I've heard Amy's stories. I've heard, some other people, some friends of ours, Amy's that I won't mention, that have told, stories. Literally, I just found out last year there was something called cuffing season. I had no fucking idea what that was. So I was like, are you serious? That's a real fucking thing? I was like, I clearly missed out on that deal. But so I get that. So I preface this by saying I realize there's some shitty men out there. Mm-hmm. But I also have seen, and again, I'm not sure why I'm on this algorithm on TikTok, but I am interested in people's dating stories and things like that. So when I hear women talk about, well, this is a red flag, and 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 then I'm sitting here thinking, man, if I was dating, I would have failed 3 of those red flags. And I'd like to think that I'm a fairly nice guy and a good guy, right? Like, oh, he didn't text me right back, so this or that. But okay, well, I happen to text back fairly quickly, but I understand why people don't. And
that's called anxious attachment. That's what that's called.
Like,
and a lot of girls have that.
So that's a red flag now because the guy didn't text you back within 5 minutes. Like, or he laid his left arm on the bar in this way, and he. Like, it's things like there's maybe those are extremes. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Don't you remember the days? There seems to be
a lot of red flags for guys.
You remember the days you had to like look up your boyfriend's number, girlfriend's number in a phone book and call them on a landline?
Yes.
Like those are the days. Those are the days where like Iowa courts didn't exist. Facebook, Are We Dating the Same Guy didn't exist.
I'll give you a great example. I mentioned to you, we did an old man dating show back when we first started. My daughter's friend came on. We read her Twitter stuff, her Tinder stuff. Yeah. And there was a couple times where the guys were like, "Hey, how are you doing? This is my name." It was a really nice, polite message. He talked a little. He obviously had read the girl's profile. Blah 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 blah. And they were like, "Oh no, we're not talking to him." I'm like, why? It was a nice thing that he wrote. And she's like, "Yeah, he's too wordy. He's too needy." And I'm just like, what is wrong with that?
Yeah, I think I've done a lot of research, listened to a lot of podcasts, like seen TikTok videos, and a lot of people get set into this, like, these are my dating rules. And I have like a saying that it says like, fuck the dating rules, right? Like, you're not supposed to have sex with somebody on the first date. You're 35. Like, you're not 19. You know what I mean? Like, you do what you want to do. You're an adult. Like you own your own home. Like if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I do have people in my life that are very much like what you're saying. Like it took him 8 hours to text me back. I'm like, well, that's just, some people just aren't big texters. And I also believe
Amy. I would never date Amy.
Amy, do you not like to talk on the phone either?
Amy doesn't respond to a text for days.
I love to talk on the
To
phone.
ask Amy
No.
the one thing she hates about me.
You text
Do
a
not
lot?
call me.
Don't
Do
call
not
you.
call me.
No, it's when I say, "Hey, can you call me?"
Well, that's kind of
It's
scary
the only
too.
time I
Can you
will get
call me?
her to answer me. It's the
You know,
only
and
time I will get her to answer me.
I think a lot
And
of
it
people
has to be at the
too.
right time.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people go into dating too and they think that they have a type, right? Like, I want a guy that's 6 foot, college educated, this, that, blah, 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 blah. And then they're still single. So I'm like, okay, you don't have a type. Like, go outside your type. I always tell the story of if I saw my husband at a bar, never would I have ever gone up to him, thought he was attractive from a distance, but he was one of 3 dates that I had the day that I went out with him, the first date that we had. And I canceled all the other dates after I met with him. And we have been together ever since. And that was May of 2014. We went to El Rodeo and that was our first date. And he was divorced or almost divorced at 25. And didn't have any kids or anything. It was 5'5", which I'm 4'11", so doesn't matter how tall you are really to me. You could be 5'2" and you're still taller than me. That's the perks of dating me. You're always probably going to be taller than me. And tatted, had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. And I was like, this is not what I thought I would have, gone for. And, so it's just crazy to me. And I think when you do speed dating, and a lot of people have said this, as they're like, and a lot of people, I don't have a whole lot of dating stories, but there are a handful of people that are dating from my events that have told me they are, and they've given me testimonials. And one of them was like, I would have never swiped on him. But I got to talk to him face to face. And you get to see people's mannerisms. You get to see how they interact. You get to see how they are. Like, through an app and photos, just remember, people are also probably posting their best photos, right?
Yes.
And
unless it's a guy with a fish photo, I hear that's not
right. A lot of women get, this is another thing. I made people send me like screenshots of like their weirdest conversations they've had, like online dating. And a lot of
we
women
need to see those.
Yeah, a lot of women just get sent unsolicited pics. And I'm like, this is
okay. I seriously don't understand that.
There's nothing attractive about that.
I don't
There's
get that.
Nothing attractive about that. What is attractive, and I tell people this, is that you planned a date. That's attractive. That you can plan a date. That's very attractive. You can cook a meal. Great. You do your own laundry. Perfect. You could change a light bulb, fix my car tire. It's got a hole in it. Awesome. Like, that's what we want. We don't want pictures of your genitalia, okay?
Those are good for keeping your personal space from the little old lady behind you in line at Walmart. You open
Target?
a message that you know is going to be
What kind of
that,
message
'cause
do
that's
I
all
send
they
when I'm
ever
at
send you.
Target?
You open that and oh my, and then they allow you your personal space after that. But that's the only thing that those are good for.
Yeah, and it's just, it's crazy to me. I'm like, is this a bot? Like, is this a real person sending this? And it is 100%. And I'm like, no. And statistically, this is statistics. 70% of people that do online dating are men. So that's, and a lot of, that's just what's out there. And, somebody told me last night at my event, there's a lot of people at my event that don't do the apps. They don't do anything. They just are coming to my event. So I always say, like, I find the people that aren't on the apps, so, which is really cool to think that there's people that are not actively online dating, which you have to think everybody online dates at this point or has, that are coming to my events. So I thought that was really cool that she mentioned that to me.
I met my wife on Plenty of Fish. This was several years ago, and she claims that I stalked her. So we'll throw this scenario out, and you guys can judge.
I can
whether
see
or not
that track.
Stop it! You don't even know the story. So
my husband messaged me several times before I said yes.
So I messaged her. She had a beautiful picture. She was an Iowa State fan. She loved to play golf. All those things that I was interested in. I messaged her. Her message back to me was, I'm currently dating somebody right now on this app that I just met, and I'd prefer not to date multiple people at once. I'd like to see where things go. And I was like, fine, whatever. So I backed off. 2 weeks later, I still saw her photo active on the site, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna. I'd be kicking myself if I didn't take one more shot. And at that point, I messaged her again. I said, I know what you said, but I said I would be kicking myself if I didn't take another shot and just say that I really think that we have a lot in common and I would love a chance to get to know you. Mm-hmm. And she messaged back and said, funny it is, it's not working out with that guy. So would you like to meet me for lunch? She was very quick to, we did a lot of talking. One of her red flags is that guys wanted to meet right away. And she had 2 young boys at the time, mm-hmm. and she was not about that. And she also, her 2 boys, my 2 stepsons now, had special needs, and they were a lot. And she was like, fairly, when we started to date in quite a bit, she was pretty quick to introduce me to the boys because she thought if I can't handle them, there's no sense in moving on. Like she was very, I almost want to say like business-like about it.
Yeah.
Like I can remember being on our first date and I thought I was on a job interview. But her joke now is right. Her joke is that I stalked her online and whatever else, but I don't necessarily think that's the case.
I don't know. It totally tracks.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks. I appreciate
it. You're welcome.
So that's my online dating story that turned out to be a success. But there were quite a few before that on the flip side, I was I was a father that was raising my 2 kids. I had 50-50 custody. I was an engaged father, meaning I was active. I wasn't some guy that only got his kids every 2 weeks and things like that. I still had my own home. I had a good job. And you would not believe the amount of girls that would quickly want to latch onto that. And that was a red flag as well.
Yeah. And for me, when I was dating, I was like, at 25, I was like, at 25, I'm like, I'm not going to date somebody with a kid. But now I think out of it on it. And I'm like, well, most people at 35 have kids. A lot of people at 35 have 1, 2. All my friends have 5 kids. So right. If they were to get divorced, they'd have 5 kids. But my sister met her fiance online and they were both a little older. Like he's 43, she's going to be 40. And neither of them have ever been married, don't have kids. And I'm like, that's kind of gold. Like you don't find that very often. Right. And I have a lot of events that I do. I've had a lot of people that have asked me, will you ever do certain types of events? Events for single parents. And I kind of am like, no, because people come to my events that are single parents and I really don't want to narrow this group anymore because I'm already having somewhat of a hard time getting men at these. So I don't want to narrow the groups. That's why you're not seeing me yet do pickleball or rock climbing events. I'm just sticking to basic dating before I start to expand. I've got the Iowa Wild thing. So I'm incorporating now, this is my first one. I'm incorporating a game, but I don't want to narrow it down to too much until we start to get men on the wait list. That's the goal, to have men on my wait list consistently.
Amy, go ahead. Otherwise, I have a scenario I want to talk about.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the dating app thing. So, and you're right. There are people that you see on the apps that you would not ever talk to or engage with. And so I think that the in-person things are good. My boyfriend, I had a rule, my hard and fast rule when I was on the apps. If he had the same name as my ex-husband, that was an immediate no. Yeah. Immediate no. So my boyfriend's name is the same name as my ex-husband. But he had a picture of him with his cat. And I was like, oh, he has a cat. All right, cool. I guess we'll try this. And here we are 7 years later.
Yeah.
Almost 8. But and I think that's good that you don't narrow it to single parents or things like that, because people are going to look at that and say, oh, well, I'm not a single parent, I can't go to that one. But you might meet someone who is a single parent.
And it might be the perfect situation. You know what I mean? It might be the ideal situation for you. I think when I meet people that are divorced that have kids, I'm like, you get like a weekend off. Like when you're
Yeah.
married, you don't get a weekend off.
No.
Like you have your kids all the time. So I'm like, so sometimes divorce isn't that bad. So you get
Divorce
you get
is
to do stuff.
expensive because it's worth it. So
Yeah.
just so we're aware.
That's a true story.
True
All
story.
right, so we're gonna take another break, but we're gonna do the Kyle Lehman Wintrust Mortgage question of the pod for you, Leah. So the way this works is I'm gonna play this fun little wheel here that will ask a random question. I'll ask you the question. Don't read the categories yet. Just hold on, and then I will read you the question. We'll get a quick ad and word from Kyle, and then we'll come back with your answer. Okay.
Okay.
So, what is the wheel question going to ask? I did throw some dating questions in here, but we'll see what happens. So, well, it didn't come up with a dating one, but what's a hobby or activity you love that you're? I'll wait for the applause to finish. What's a hobby or activity you love that your family doesn't quite understand, and how do they react to it? So that's your question.
Okay.
We'll come back with a word from Kyle Lehman, and then we'll get your answer.
Whether you're buying, selling, or refinancing your home, or if it's simply time to renovate the one you're already living in, you need an experienced mortgage professional to help you analyze your financing options and to make sure the closing goes smoothly. And that's exactly what you get when you call Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Kyle's experience and expertise, coupled with Wintrust's rates and programs, ensures you'll get the mortgage that's right for you. You may even qualify for down payment.
Okay, and we're back. Sorry about that. I think that messed up. I don't know that it went through all the way. Okay, what's a hobby or activity you love that your family doesn't quite understand, or how do they react to it?
Yeah. Well, I don't have a lot of hobbies. My hobbies are working. But there's a couple. So I'll just tell you a couple. So my husband was like very good at sports, like very athletic, could care less about watching football, basketball, whatever. I am an avid, like Iowa women's basketball, Indiana Fever, wrestling, anything like that. So like anytime the games are on, I'm on that. And the only thing I allow myself to bet on DraftKings is Indiana Fever games. So my husband just thinks it's funny. And he's like, he's just like, you're really like, I was like, it's only $10, but then sometimes I haven't told him this, but I've bet a little bit more than $10 before. And I've won some, but not anything big. You got to spend it to make it. And one of the other hobbies I have, activities, this not a lot of people know this. And it's kind of funny that I do it, but like I get really excited to like sit on my couch with my laptop, with my coffee or energy drink or whatever, or if it's at nighttime, whatever I'm doing, and I get on Zillow and I go and I look up houses in different states that I can't afford. Like that is an activity of mine that I like to do. And things that I'm like, it's also like things that'll never happen. They're like $1 million, 500 square foot houses in Martha's Vineyard out there. So I would say those are some of the things that I do. One's a weird behavior and one not so weird behavior.
Well, that works. Okay, so I want to run the scenario by you. So I have a friend of mine. I'm going to be very vague because she would shoot me if she knew that I would say this, but it's okay. We have some discussions every once in a while, and she has a gentleman that she really likes. She constantly talks about him. He will constantly call her and say, "Hey, do you want to go run some errands today? Do you want to go shopping? Do you want to go to this concert? Do you want to do all these things? Do you want to go to our friend's party?" But she clearly likes him. He clearly, I don't know, doesn't. I gave her the advice at one point. I was like, you need to just basically tell this dude that you are confused as to what his intentions are.
Yeah.
And she did, and he just pretty much said, "I'm not really interested in you that way." But he continues to engage in every single thing that they do like they're a couple. And I finally told her, I was like, you need to tell that guy to go get fucked.
Yeah.
Like he's using you.
Yeah. I mean, if it's beyond what I think you're meaning, I mean,
right. Yeah. Like, there's no physical. Yeah. There's no physical aspect to it. So,
okay. There's no physical aspect to it.
No.
Okay.
So, but I mean, he, he clearly wants to use her time when he wants to go run an errand, or or he's treating her like I would,
it's almost like she's like second to him, right?
Yes,
like it's
right,
like she's like,
right.
okay, like you're good enough to be my friend and to do everything that I
Right.
would do with a girlfriend, but you're
Correct.
not quite
Right.
that.
And I've told her, you need to have more respect for yourself.
Agreed.
You need
You're
to
saying
tell
all the good
him
points.
to the next time he calls and says, "Hey, do you want to go do this?" You need to say, "Nope, sorry, I got a date."
Yeah.
Even when you don't.
Yep.
I don't know. It's at this point, that's the advice I've been giving her. Am I on the right track? The guy's a fucking douchebag, right?
Yeah,
like, I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Women are attracted to douchebags and guys that are mean to them. Like that's unfortunately just sometimes what we're attracted to, and it takes us a really long time, I think, to figure out that like that's not what we should want. I always tell people, like, if a guy's going to be interested in you, he's going to be interested in you. If you're confused in a relationship that you're in or whatever, like when you know, like there will be nothing confusing about the relationship that you are pursuing it, that you're in, right? And I think that it takes a while to get there. And I think that your friend is, she's probably, it's comfortable to her at this point and she doesn't want to not be comfortable. And same for that guy. Like, if he's, and I don't know if he's seeing other people or not, but yeah, it seems like if he had another option, he would not call her, but he's using her as like, well, you're okay. I guess I'll use you for everything to go to do this and do that. And I think that it's unhealthy for her to continue because she's going to look back when she does find somebody and be like, I wasted X amount of years when I could have been actively searching or really in a relationship with somebody, developing something, building something, but I was really just stuck on this guy. So she needs to just cut it off. And for some people, at some points, it becomes an addiction. Like a person can become an addiction to you, and you feel that sense of there's something about him that she likes, and it potentially is the chase, right?
Right.
It's the chase for
Sure.
her. So that's my advice.
She needs to watch The Holiday.
Yeah, she needs to watch The Holiday.
It's a terrible movie. Don't even get started.
You stop.
It's a good movie. That's like what makes me want to live in like the UK. That movie.
Yeah.
The woman's like cheating on his friend, right? Isn't that guy that like falls in love with her? No, wait.
That's like Jack Black in it and Charlie.
Oh no, I'm thinking of that Christmas movie. What's that?
Jude
Christmas?
Law and Jack Black and Cameron
Diaz.
Diaz.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of something else. What's that Christmas movie that everybody talks about that is got?
Is it recent?
No, it's an old one. It's got it's like a collab of cast of people.
Yeah,
I
know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's like that's a lot of famous actors, and they threw them all in a movie. Yeah. Can't remember what it's
called.
That's
what I was thinking it was. Never mind.
No.
This is why
The Holiday. It's good.
That's
The Holiday.
Right.
She says in there, you need to leave me alone because we both need to fall out of love with you.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
I'm totally using that line. I'm going to text her later. Yeah. All right. We're at our final segment. This is the STFU segment. This is, again, a sponsored segment slightly, right? So what we do is we had Steph Copley, one of our great friends on the podcast early on in Old Man Strength, and she kindly told Tim to shut the fuck up because he wouldn't stop talking. And so I thought it was so funny that we would make it a segment where we ask people to donate to the Young Women's Resource Center. And then in doing so, when we come back, Leah, the way this works is Amy and I have to shut the fuck up, which, if you know Amy, is really hard for.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
I mean, accurate, but hey.
It's right. And then you get to say whatever you want without us interrupting, carte blanche. So let's get a word from Steph about the Young Women's Resource Center.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
All right. Amy and I will STFU, and Leah, you have the floor.
Awesome. Well, this is a good time for me to just talk about Date Me DSM and to get those that are listening kind of to an event. So obviously we talked on the podcast about what Date Me DSM is and what it's about, but really, you know, the reason I kind of wanted to do this podcast is that I felt that it might give me a different reach to a different demographic. So a little bit of an older demographic, the kind of the age range that I struggle with. So if you are a 45 plus man watching this video, I always have lots of women on my wait list that are wanting to come to our events that can't come to our events because they're on the wait list because I haven't sold enough men's tickets. So if you are wondering where all the good women are at, they're on my wait list, and they're really fun and they're super laid back. Lots of people have a really good time at them. I always have people message me that are a little bit nervous, and once they're there, they're like, okay, that was not bad at all. And we're Des Moines, so you know, this isn't, you know, New York City where we're easygoing. We're all very friendly to each other. You may run into an ex, you might not run into an ex, an ex-wife, whatever, but they're fun to be at. And I think I throw a really, really unique event. So if you are curious about them, send me a message at datemedsm@gmail.com or follow me on social media.
Perfect. There you go.
Can I ask a question? What type of events do you do?
So I've done speed dating. So like your typical like 1985 speed dating where it's like you get 4 minutes each. I'm on the mic, move on to the next, move on to the next. And those are a little bit smaller, like not smaller, but those ones I can't obviously have 80 people at because that's a lot of people to go on a date with. So we do 4 minutes, 25 rounds. So 25 people you're talking to if everybody shows up. Couple intermissions. I've done mixers. We've done a couple we've done one queer mixer. I have another queer mixer coming up at Reading in Public. And then eventually, you know, we'll do more. Like I'd love to do like a bags tournament, you know, or just like fun stuff like that. That's just a little bit unique. Like not an adult prom, because I don't like how that sounds, but something like that where there's like a DJ and there's like, you know, appetizers and food. So that could be like my 1-year anniversary party of Date Me DSM. So really it's just kind of simple, just mixers or speed dating. I've done two actually. I've done one where you come to the event, you fill out a questionnaire and an algorithm matches you with somebody at the event. So it's called Matchbox parties. They're based out of New York. So I've done an event. And then a week ago, I did an event where it was a private dinner party. So 10 guys, 10 girls, you applied to come. I went through applications and I just picked people based on their applications, compatibility, intuition. And then a little right before dessert, you got an envelope at the dinner with who your match was. So you got to sit next to them like towards the end of the night.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's super cool. Like everyone was like, I mean, it's very unique. I mean, I've had people message me that are like, can you bring this to Sioux City, Iowa? No, I can't, but yeah. Like, you know.
So have you've done these obviously at public places or whatever, restaurants, bars or whatever.
Yep.
As it's going on, have you had people walk up to you and say, hey, what is this? Can I join?
Well, yeah, I've had that happen. I've also had people that have just shown up to my event that are like, so I was on the wait list, but I just thought I'd try to come. And I'm like, yeah, there's also 60 other women on the wait list. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I've had that almost every event. I have somebody that's just like, well, I just thought I'd try to get in. And I'm like, sometimes I usually don't say no, but I don't want to throw that out there that you can do that. But,
right.
You know, and if it's a guy and I'm short a guy that didn't show up, like, I'm like, oh yeah, like, come on in. But I've had people message me, like just the other day I had somebody message me and they're like, so me and 3 of my friends wanted to come to your event, but we got online and it said sold out. I was like, yeah, it's sold out in 45 seconds. And now the wait list has, you know, X amount of people on it, which it's unfair for me to be like, sure, you can come. Sure. Like, get in line. All these other people want to come too. So, but those are kind of the events I've done. The matching ones are just they're kind of fun. Like everybody has like their phone out and it gives like a countdown on the phone and then it like tells you who your match is and you have to like find them. Last night, the event I did was like a little speed dating and a little bit of mixing. And how we did it was because when you do a large group, nobody's like sitting across from each other. So we walked around and gave everybody a number. So a guy had number 1, a girl had number 1, and you had to walk around the room with like a little note card and find them. And I like that concept because it makes you move around the room to see everybody that's there. So then when it comes time to mixing and mingling, you kind of already know who you saw and you want to talk to.
Sure.
As long as you can go up and talk to them, which that's the kicker, right? Is like going up and talking to somebody. And I know you had said like, that's very nerve-wracking for you to, it's kind of almost like being in a bar. The thing about my events is what I always tell people is that I'm like, never in your life will you probably ever walk into a room and know that every single person is single. You don't have to guess. You don't have to guess that the girl that's at the bar is she's married or not. So, you're not going to get rejected and somebody be like, oh, sorry, I have a wedding ring on, or.
Now I've heard of those. I mean, seen videos, things like that, where has that happened before where you've had people there that turns out that they were not single?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of.
And I don't want to know that.
Right. Yeah.
I think I had one guy come to my event who like had just moved out like that week. But I'm like, well, you could. A lot of people sometimes live with their exes because it's just hard to find something. I mean, especially now, it's like they're in the basement, and I'm like, but they haven't technically been together for 6 months. So I'm like, I get it. In an ideal world, you would be legally separated before you start coming to our events because it's just a lot of baggage sometimes for people too to have to deal with. But I think just once or. Like somebody had said, I'm still in counseling with my ex. And the girl was like, no, no. What are you in counseling for? Are you guys getting back together? So, but yeah. So hopefully that doesn't happen ever because my events are for single people. But that's the one thing I always say is like, you're never going to have to guess. So it's just a unique experience to put yourself in. And I'm glad people are coming out. I'm glad people are doing it. It's very exciting. It's a social experiment too for me. Like it's just very interesting to see people interact and how people interact. And when people do put their matches down. So what happens at the end of the night is people will scan a QR code and they'll put down the names of the people that they want to match with. And then within 2 days, I will text you if you have any matches, their contact information. So you both receive each other's info and you just go from there. So I have a lot of people that will ask me like, hey, like, what's your success rate? Well, I don't base my success on people that have like gotten in relationships because I can't control what happens after my events, right? Like I could give you their number, but it's up to you to go on a date with them. I base my success on I'm selling out events. People are on wait lists. People are talking about this. That's the success for me. So.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, check out Date Me DSM. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram, no longer TikTok. Which is where I saw it. Which again is, I'm not sure why my algorithm. At one point, I was just on wrestling and Marvel, and then all of a sudden, this happened. So
that's what I was targeting: wrestling. People that like wrestling.
Yeah, people that like wrestling.
Obviously,
there you go. Obviously. So, check out the rest of Three Beards Media podcasts. We have Side of the Storm, Hawk's Eye View this week. The Super Bowl Ball Don't Lie has one more episode left. And then we kind of slow down into basketball season and things like that. So, Amy, thank you so much for coming on with me. I appreciate it. Leah, it was a pleasure to meet you. Go like, subscribe, give us a 5-star. What's that whole 5-star rule that you have, Amy?
Only 5 stars are allowed because if you don't like it, you keep that shit to yourself.
That's right. So there you go.
Positive vibes only.
Positive vibes only. There you go. And with that, we are out of here.